So my name's Jana. I'm with the Chicago Area Schweitzer Fellows Program. I was a alumni of the UIC School of Public Health, and I also was a fellow when I was there. So I can talk to you today about the Schweitzer Fellowship Program and also as my experience as a fellow when I was in school. I guess just really quickly before we start, a quick, why were you drawn to learning about this fellowship today? Anyone have any, do you know a fellow? Do you know about the experience, or are you just sort of learning about it for the first time? First time?
I don't know much about it, but Albert Schweitzer is a personal hero.
Okay, great. So you know of Albert Schweitzer. All right, so that's good to know. So most of you haven't, you don't know any of the current fellows? Stephen Addington, IO? Yeah, so they're fellows. Okay, Brian Bamberger is a fellow. So I'll talk briefly about the fellowship, sort of the background of it and how it came to be. I'll give you information on the nuts and bolts of it, and then I'll open it up to questions. And if you have questions along the way, just feel free to ask. It's pretty open. And I'm passing around brochures, so make sure you get a packet. And also there's a sign-in sheet, so if you could go ahead and sign your email, it'll just be a way for us to follow up with you about the fellowship later. So I'm going to also show a short video at the beginning because I think it helps give an overview of the fellowship. But essentially, the fellowship is a service learning fellowship for graduate students from a wide variety of health professions to spend a year implementing a health promotion project in an underserved community. So we're looking for students from medical schools, public health schools, sociology, pharmacy, dentistry, social work, psychology, the list goes, art therapy, dance therapy, the list goes on. We're looking from students from across Chicago who want to spend a year working with underserved communities and being mentored through an experience where you really get to practice some of your health skills in a community setting. But just before I start, since we are at a medical school, will any of you be third-year medical students next year? Your M2 is now going to be M3s next year. No? Excellent. Because M3s are not eligible to apply. So I just wanted to make that clear before everyone stands up. Excellent. All right. Sometimes we have those M3s sneak in here, though. So great. So if you are going to be an M2 or an M4, you are eligible for the fellowship. So before I go into Albert Schweitzer's life, I'm going to start the video so you can see a little bit about it, and then we'll come back to the PowerPoint.
When I parse that quote, the word life really jumps out at me. I think about making a lifelong commitment. That's really what I think about. And I think that's what he meant by that.
When we seek to address problems that seem insurmountable, when we look at solutions that seem unfeasible, what Dr. Schweitzer is really saying is the solution begins with you.
You know, you feel it. You feel it in your heart. You feel it. And just, this is exactly why I went into this profession, as a feeling of completion, in yourself as a person. I have found my life's work. I found my niche, and I think that that's what Schweitzer was going after.
Rather than making statements of principle, he lived those principles in the way he dedicated himself to the care of the disadvantaged and of those who had been ignored by society. A principle which we hope will carry through to the fellows and Albert Schweitzer Fellowship programs across the United States.
I think the Schweitzer experience provides an opportunity for students to really understand the interconnectedness of the health profession and how each complements one another.
It does condition people in a way that nothing else can. Real life, hands-on experience with real problems. And we're pleased with the extent to which these young people continue to be motivated and animated by this kind of inspiration.
Chicago is known as the city that works, but for thousands of families and individuals, staying healthy is a difficult job. 750,000 Chicagoans are uninsured, but when they get sick, many will delay seeking treatment until their symptoms become serious enough for them to go to the emergency room.
These are challenging problems, but thankfully there's a cadre of creative and dedicated individuals who are trying to help solve them. Specifically, a unique and inspiring program called the Chicago Area Schweitzer Fellowship provides opportunities for graduate students to design projects to help communities in need of resources.
Each year, the Chicago Schweitzer program selects 30 exceptional students who will spend a year working to improve the health of an underserved Chicago community.
Since 1996, over 350 Schweitzer Fellows have completed 70,000 hours of community service at over 100 clinics, schools, social service agencies, and other community-based sites throughout Chicago.
The fellowship recruits students from a wide variety of disciplines, and it's a chance for like-minded change agents from all over the city to meet, share ideas, and inspire each other.
Sarah Van Koningsveld, a dance movement therapy and counseling student at Columbia College, has designed a project at Deborah's Place, an agency that offers supportive services for homeless women.
The women at Deborah's Place are experiencing homelessness because of poverty, losing a job, domestic displacement because of abuse or violence.
I enjoy the Love Dance class to motivate me, to relax me, to energize me, to keep me fit.
I do like dancing and socializing and laughing with everybody.
Just being challenged and just having something to think about other than tragedy. I really enjoy this.
I hope to empower the women through movement and through discussion-based work, and to make the changes that they need to move forward with their lives and to become the individuals that they'd like to become.
Fang Zhang, a student at Northwestern University Medical School, has launched a mentoring program at CN High School to help students in the AVID program achieve academic success and to spark their interest in science careers.
The students in AVID and in CN High School as a whole tend to come from very diverse both ethnic and cultural backgrounds. And generally, they tend to be less wealthy than their peers. Many of them have parents who either never went to college, or many of them are immigrants. So for them, they really have very little knowledge and very little confidence when approaching the college application process. So my program tries to bridge this gap by providing them with mentors who've not only gone down the path, but have been successful. And so with the extra knowledge and enthusiasm that hopefully they will glean from their mentors, I hope that they will become more aware of the path that they need to take in order to get to where they want to be.
Fellow Uchenna Osai, a UIC physical therapy student, is working with the Night Ministry, where she provides health information and also emotional support to lesbian, gay, and transgender youth and homeless adults.
The main challenge with a lot of these individuals is they don't have a home, whether they've been kicked out, abused, they're living on the streets. A lot of them have mental issues, or they're a product of the system, where after you've been in foster care, once you're 18, you're out on the street, and a lot of them, you don't have the education, you don't have the resources, you don't have that structure, and I'm working to improve their health literacy.
All right, everyone, health circle, 10 minutes, headache is the topic.
I feel my purpose. I get excited about my profession. I want to scream to them, oh, this is what I know, and you can know this too.
Fellow Ashra Saeed, a medical student at Loyola University, is confronting the problems of violence in Maywood. She is partnering with Ceasefire Maywood, an organization that teaches community members how to reduce gang conflicts and helps former gang members make positive changes in their lives.
The population that I'm working with is primarily African American and males from the ages of 16 to 29 years old. A lot of them come from a background of gang violence, single family homes. When I first started working with Ceasefire, my idea of service was a lot more focused and narrow, and I thought that I would be focusing primarily on trauma itself, so street violence, gunshot wounds, stab wounds, etc. And as I've worked with Ceasefire, I've come to realize social issues, say finding a job or substance abuse or alcohol, all play a really large role in this culture of violence, and Ceasefire is able to help them in that capacity, as well as dealing with the medical aspect of the actual injury itself.
We've done a lot in educating the community about violence. We're all over the news nationwide because of the modalities that we use in violence prevention.
Schweitzer Fellow Michelle Eck.
All right, I'm going to stop there because I think it gives you enough examples. And the rest of the video is just asking for money, so we don't need you to see that part. So anyway, Albert Schweitzer. So some of you said he's your personal hero. How many of you have never heard of Albert Schweitzer before? A good number. So we find that more and more. So the fellowship was really founded on Albert Schweitzer's work in his hospital in Lambaréné, Africa, and I'll talk a little bit about how it evolved to what it is today. But Albert Schweitzer was a man of his time who was a really well-known Bach scholar, theologian, academic, and at the age of 30, and this is back in the early 1900s, so at the age of 30 to be making this decision was a little bit unique. At the age of 30, he decided that he wanted to do more with his life as far as helping other people, and so he decided to go to medical school. His family gave him, heck for it and said, "Why are you doing this? You have such an illustrious career. Why would you go and do this?" And he said, "I know people who have no access to health care. I want to go help them." And so he went to medical school with the sole purpose of going down to what is now Gabon, in Lambaréné, Gabon, Africa, to open a clinic. So he went through all these things and he opened his hospital, and several wars actually destroyed the hospital, so he had to rebuild the hospital. He ended up rebuilding it 3 times. He rebuilt it twice and then had to physically move it a second time because it was too close to a water source for malaria. So he really did a lot, and he spent the rest of his life caring for people in Lambaréné. And throughout his time there, he really started to develop a philosophy. So he became a philosopher as well. And a lot of his statements we quote often. So one of them is, "I decided to make my life my argument." And he started to go around and encouraging people to do the same. He decided to tell people that you should really create something and do something in your life that matches your ideals and what you believe in. You should have reverence for life. You should help people who need it. It's okay. You can keep passing that around. And so his philosophy really started to create a sense of altruism, and he became a humanitarian who was known around the world for really encouraging altruism and encouraging people to go and help others. And he also had a quote, "Find your own Lambaréné." So he didn't believe that everyone had to go and create a hospital or their own clinic. He really felt that everyone should go and find what it is that they can contribute to the world and go ahead and do that. So his philosophy runs through this. His hospital was built in about 40 years ago. They started bringing medical students from the United States over to his hospital as Schweitzer Fellows. They were going to help sustain his hospital and work and be volunteers in his hospital. And about 20 years after that, one of those students who was at Harvard Medical School came back from the experience and thought, "That was really wonderful, but why did I have to go all the way to Lambaréné to help people? Look just down the street in Boston. There's a lot of things going on." So he decided to open the U.S. Urban Schweitzer program, which started 20 years ago now. And it started in Boston and now has grown to 13 other sites. So Chicago was one of the earlier ones. We've been around for 17 years now. We are one of the largest of the fellowship programs, so we have the most number of fellows every year. And it has since grown, so now we are one of 13. And there is still a fellowship that sends medical students and medical, nursing, and public health students to the hospital in Lambaréné. If you're ever interested in that, we can talk about that separately. You do have to be fluent in French for that. So really, the fellowship is based on his hospital and his work, and then his philosophy is sort of underpinned throughout a lot of the fellowship components as well. To go to that fellowship in Lambaréné in Africa, to go to Gabon for the summer, yeah. Not for the Chicago program. So the fellowship in Chicago is a service learning fellowship. So we're not focused on research. We're not trying to go through an IRB process. We're not trying to publish. It really is about going into communities and getting real hands-on work through service with that community. Like I said before, it's interdisciplinary, so we're really looking for students from a wide variety of health-related disciplines. And we think of health very broadly, so really we think of any discipline can influence the well-being and health of a community, so we're open to pretty much every discipline. But historically, the fellowship has been was founded on medical students, so medical students are still the majority of students selected for the fellowship around the country, and in Chicago, about a third of our fellows are medical students. You are selected as a like-minded group, so most of the people, all of the people selected for the fellowship are really passionate about social justice, about service, about helping others, about that altruism philosophy, really. We call them Schweitzer-esque characteristics. You're really sort of emulating that idealism that Schweitzer had. And so you get to really be with a group of people who think like you and who want to do, have similar careers as you throughout their lives. And now, how many of you feel like in medical student, you're surrounded by a lot of people who are just want to specialize, and just go to private practice? I mean, I think with health reform, things are changing, but so sometimes we hear from students that you get stuck in a school and you feel like everyone else around you doesn't see the communities in need. And so this is an opportunity to connect with others like that who see that need and want to help that need and connect with people who think like you do. We think of the fellowship as the beginning of a lifelong career in this work and community work. I will say, if you don't know if that's what you really want to do, that's okay. But usually this launches, I think 92% of our fellows who have graduated go into either nonprofit or community-based settings when they're done. So really it's a lot of people who are interested in that type of work. It allows you to get out of the classroom and into a community. A lot of times by your second, third, fourth year medical student, you're so bogged down with studying you forget why you came into medical school in the first place. So it gives you a chance to reconnect with people outside of the class. We hope that it strengthens your leadership skills and allows for personal growth as well. So the main crux of the fellowship, the main component of it really is a service project. So every fellow who's selected will come up with a proposed project where you would work in an underserved community of your choosing. So you would think about the entire Chicago region. It doesn't have to be in the city. If you live in the suburbs, it can be in the suburbs too. Find an underserved community, you work with an existing community organization, and you implement some sort of health promotion project. So it can be, something that's very health-based, where you're doing, diabetes screenings and you're doing diabetes education, or it can really focus on those social determinants of health. So maybe you're helping people find employment, you're tutoring people to be successful in their education endeavors. Maybe it's doing dance and fitness classes or offering healthy cooking classes. It can be anything that promotes well-being, and that is up to the fellow. So the fellow gets to really design and drive the project in collaboration with the community. It can be a brand new project, so you can think of something that's never been done before, or you can continue a project and enhance it in some way. So, go ahead. We think of service as any face-to-face time with a community. So if you're involving community members in advocacy training and teaching them how to do advocacy and empowering the community to make a change for their well-being, I think that could count. But it has to be face-to-face time where you're really working with the community to teach them how to do that. It can be a new project or a continuation. There are lots of current fellows doing projects. Stephen and Io this year are actually continuing a project that Carmen Cancino, also a UIC medical student, had done the year before, and they've since expanded it and grown the project. So we do ask that it somehow enhance the project and that your skills add to it. Did you have a question? Oh, I thought you saw your hand. Okay. And the key here is that you have to spend 200 hours in the community. So you have 13 months, and you have to put in 200 hours. 40 of those hours can be more administrative, so like creating flyers and recruiting people and creating curriculum. 160 hours, they'll have to be face-to-face with community members, teaching them, helping them, doing something with them for that time. The other thing about the service projects is that they're mentored. So you don't just go into community and just do this. I think anyone could go and try to do something. But you really have the support of the fellowship. So you have the fellowship name behind you. We've been in the different communities in Chicago for 17 years now. You have mentors. So you would choose a mentor here at the school who could oversee sort of your school fellowship balance, any content areas you might need. You choose a mentor at the organization where you're working, and they help oversee some of the day-to-day logistics of your program. Maybe they help you find space, or they put flyers up for you. Maybe they help you print some things. You have a mentor who's on our Schweitzer Advisory Council. So these are people who are have been in their careers for a while, who are really well-known in community work or in academia, and they can be an added layer of support for you. And then we also give you a student mentor, someone who recently went through the fellowship, who can give you a very fresh perspective on the experience. So you have a whole lot of support, as well as staff. So I'm the program associate, Ray Wang is our program director, and we also have a program coordinator now that we just hired, Bonnie. So you have staff support as well, who can really help sit down and brainstorm ideas. So it's really an opportunity for you to try something new, try out an idea, and know that you have the support there to go along with it. And also our philosophy is that sometimes the process is more important than the outcome. So while we do want you to succeed in all your community projects, if something just goes wrong and it just doesn't work, the process and what you learn from it is just as important to us as what you did. So it's really an opportunity to try something out and make it, see if it can work and see if it's something you're interested in. So why might you want to consider the fellowship? We know that inequality is hazardous not only to the individual experiencing the inequality, but to an entire community. There's a lot of research that shows that any inequality in wealth, income, things like that, create poorer health outcomes for the entire community. So we want to address inequality and help those underserved communities. We know in Chicago, over 20% of the population is living below the federal poverty line. I think this number is wrong. We have 750,000 people who are uninsured. Yes, that's changing with health reform, but there's a lot of stuff going on. It's going to take a lot more than just insurance to get rid of some of these inequalities. We know low-income communities are disproportionately impacted by a whole variety of health conditions. So what do we mean by underserved population? Really anyone who's not getting the full line of services or even living conditions that they would need to be healthy. So people in the past have worked with low-income children, older adults, people without insurance, immigrants, people with disabilities, veterans, homeless, people with felony records, and trying to help them get employment and things like that. We also think of health very widely. So again, we think of the wide range of determinants of health. So you don't have to just focus on physical health. You can look at emotional health, mental health, social and political health, really a whole wide range of things. It's really up to you and your interests and the community you want to work with. If you need any ideas about health priorities, you can always look at Healthy People 2020 or even the Illinois State Health Improvement Plan if you want to see priorities for the state. And when choosing an organization to work with, we can offer you a community site guide. It lists over 130 organizations where fellows have worked before, and that you can browse through it. It's a PDF, so you can type in keywords and find organizations. And it tells you the organization, what they do, what the fellows have done in the past, and what their future needs might be. So if you want to work on adolescent health, you could type in adolescents, and it would pop up, all the sites that do that. So that's, we can email you, we'll email you after this just to say thanks for coming, and then you can respond to that email if you want the site guide. So right now we're recruiting for the program year that begins May 1st, 2013 and goes until May 31st, 2014. So it's a 13-month program. So most of you sound like you would be M2s. So it would be throughout your M2 year. You can do your project hours anytime within that 13-month period, anytime that seems appropriate with the community you're working with. So if you want to do most of them over the summer, you can do that. If you're away for the summer and maybe you're doing something else, you can come back and start them in September. You can spread them out evenly throughout the year. It's really up to you and what's appropriate for you and your organization. And we start out with the weekend orientation. So I think in the packet it's April 20th and 21st, or 20, yeah. And so that's a mandatory orientation. So if you're selected as a fellow, you have to come to the orientation. And it's really a chance to meet the other 30 fellows. It's a chance to learn more about what's actually paperwork required to get you started, and do a lot of team building with the other fellows. We also require you to come to monthly meetings. So once a month, all 30 fellows get together. They talk about their projects and sort of where they're at, any problems or challenges they've had. You help each other brainstorm solutions. But we also sometimes have guest speakers, interesting things about leadership and service, skills workshops. Sometimes they're just social hours just to kind of get a break and relax. And also, besides the big service project that you do, which is mostly you by yourself doing it, we do ask you to plan either a service day or symposium with a smaller group of fellows. So usually about 6 or 7 fellows will work together to plan one of those events. And you can choose either the beginning of the year or late in the year, depending on your schedule. And you really help. It's just to raise awareness about health information and give you an opportunity to learn from an interdisciplinary group of fellows. At the end of the year, we have an annual celebration event, which is just a nice time to celebrate all the work you've done. And we also offer a $2,000 stipend. It's likely to be $2,500 as long as our fundraising comes through, so it's a little bit more. We know it's not competitive with some of those fellowships out there, but the money's really not usually the reason why students choose to be in the fellowship. But it can help, and you can use it for whatever you choose. You can use it for rent, you can use it for your project, you can use it for books, whatever you want. And one other important program element to talk about is we require monthly reports, so usually 1 to 3 pages long. They're short. They're just really to give us an update about what you've been doing, reflect a little bit on about challenges and potential solutions, and it's a way for us to track the hours. So that's how we keep track of your hours. It's self-reported hours. You keep track and you let us know. And you also CC all of your mentors. So it's the one time a month all the mentors can talk to each other if they want by replying all to the email. So it's just an email report. And at the end of the year, we ask you to write a slightly longer final report, which really reflects on your experiences throughout the year and sort of how you were impacted personally and professionally. So important about the fellowship is that this cannot be something you get course credit for or that you get paid for. So this is something completely separate in addition to all of your school. And I think Io's here, so she can talk a little bit about the balance between school and fellowship and anything else you might have going on. We also recognize that school comes first. So if you ever need to take a step back or a sabbatical because something's kind of gone wrong or you've chewed off more than you could for a given month, we're flexible with that. The main thing we really try to talk about in the fellowship is communication. So as long as everyone knows what's going on and you're letting people know about your schedule and any challenges, that's the most important part. We are very flexible. It seems like a really rigid program, but we are accommodating. We want you to succeed, and we're here to support you and really just give you the opportunity to work in a community. So like I said, the orientation is required, so keep those dates in mind if you apply. We go over project design. It gives you the opportunity to meet other fellows. And in your application, you do propose a potential project, but at the orientation, we really start to solidify what does that actually look like. So you don't have to have your project completely figured out when you apply, but the orientation is a chance to really continue to develop that. And we know that as you work with the community, things are going to change. We take an asset-based approach, a very collaborative approach, and we don't want you coming into a community and saying, well, here's my plan, and this is what we're sticking to. We want you to come in and say, here's what I'm thinking, what are you thinking, what would you like, and starting to change your project as you go. These are pictures from last year's, or 2 years ago orientation. It's usually at a YMCA camp, and it's an overnight stay, so do think about that. It's fun, though. It's one of my favorite times of year. And usually I will make you dinner, if you can see in that. I make a barbecue dinner on Saturday night. Symposium and service days, again, we usually have 2 or 3 of the symposiums per year and 1 or 2 service days, depending on what the group wants. And it's a chance for you to really work with other fellows who are from different disciplines to learn how each other thinks, hear skills, and how you can collaborate and things like that. They're really pretty well attended. Typically between 50 and 100 people show up from the public. Sometimes groups do truly community-based events where you're at a community center and a lot of community members show up. And sometimes they're academic events. Really, it's a lot of students and faculty and staff interested. And it's really up to the fellows to decide. Service days, we've done a whole lot of them, from garden cleanups to school supply backpack drives, voter registration drive. They did a voter registration drive this year and also in 2008. And then at the end of all of it, once you are done with your fellowship and you submit your report and you get your stipend, we consider you a fellow for life. So like I said, we think of this as a lifelong sort of career, and so we have an alumni program that helps support you stay connected with like-minded people, and we do skills workshops, we do networking events, networking dinners, holiday parties, pretty much something almost every month. Every other year we've been doing a wellness retreat, so we offer free massages, acupuncture, yoga classes, stuff like that. And it's just a chance as an alumni. It's all voluntary, but it's a chance to stay connected with the program. And we also have a lot of alumni who like to mentor current fellows. So if you've gone through the experience, you can now mentor people going through the experience. And we've also started setting up other mentoring opportunities for our alumni who want to help underserved or underrepresented students in nursing, let's say, or whatever the case. We have opportunities for that as well. And in Chicago now we have over 430 alumni, and nationwide there are over actually 2,500 alumni. So if you want to move to the Bay Area for residency, you can connect with the program there. If you move to Boston, you can connect with the program there. Houston, New Orleans, Columbus, Los Angeles, Baltimore, all of these places have fellowships, and you can connect with other alumni from those areas. Chicago is one of the more active alumni programs, but it still gives you a network, a national network of people to connect to, which is nice. So before I talk about the application process, Io, do you want to come up here and just talk about your project briefly? I can give you the mic. Well, it's being recorded, so.
Hello, everyone. That was last year I became a fellow. So I've been a part of the Schweitzer program now for almost a year, and ours is going to be over in May. It's really a great fellowship for you to not only create your own program, but also to be in a space with like-minded people who are dedicated to community service, who are dedicated to making an impact in their community. And I think that's the one thing that I really love about it. I also got to go camping for the first time. It was indoor camping, but and so that was also nice. It was like a nice time to socialize with people that are also involved in the program. I'm currently at the Young Doctors, well, I'm currently in Lawndale for my project, and our program is called the Young Doctors Club, and basically they're students, young students. Our youngest is 7. I believe our oldest is 15 or 16, and they're really, most of them are interested in medicine. Some of them just like being around other students that are interested in learning about parts of the body, or even learning about pathophysiology of maybe cardiovascular diseases and things like that, because a lot of their family members may have suffered from it. So we do this every Friday from 5:30 to 7:30. We've done things from dissecting a pig's heart to dissecting a sheep's brain to even hosting our own health fair. Recently, they were able to go to Malcolm X, where they showed students how to take blood pressure, took blood pressure for older adults even, and talked to them about what the effects of obesity and diabetes are. So little things like that are what they've been doing. And I think it really takes me away from the med school part of life, where everybody is teaching at you and you have to go home and study, and you actually get to apply these information with some students that will be excited at the sound of saying, oh, well, the heart beats and it goes boom, 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 and you can hear with the stethoscope. They love things like that. For us, we hear it every day, but it's nice to see that people can still get excited while you might just be numb to learning about lub-dub all the time. And so that's really the project that I've been working on. Did you want me to talk about anything else? Oh, yes, I just learned that. Balancing school and life and fellowship is definitely something you have to work towards. It's hard, you know, but at the same time, the good thing about Schweitzer is it allows you to schedule things on your own time. You do have requirements, but they're not, you have to do this for 20 hours for 2 weeks, 20 hours each or something like that. You can kind of schedule it the way you want. And she mentioned that you can get a lot of your hours done during the summer, and that's what we did. So right now, we're kind of just cruising and allowing opportunities that will help our students come in and just seizing them as they come. But it definitely was a challenge for me balancing it, and I can say October was when I finally got it down packed. But you just have to prioritize, and sometimes you're not going to be able to make every meeting, so just letting them know, well, I have an exam coming up, I'm not going to be able to make it, and they definitely understand that because school comes first.
Questions for Io before?
Okay, well, you guys can, yes. Well, with our project, we don't get credit for anything until senior year when we write a paper. So there is no credit affiliated with what we're getting for Schweitzer. For what we're doing with Schweitzer and UMed right now. And as far as our UMed project, we're actually expanding as part of our UMed. As far as with our Schweitzer project, we're expanding it to high school, which has nothing to do with our UMed. So, you know, it is a bit of a challenge because I'm kind of doing 2 things with you, one separate with UMed, one with Schweitzer, but it's, I don't know. Yeah.
Thanks, Io. And another thing that's, a lot of our students, like social work students especially, people who have these clinical requirements, and while you can't get credit for Schweitzer work, you can certainly make it easier on yourself by doing your Schweitzer project at the same site where you're getting credit for something else, or where maybe in the morning you're doing an education something for your social work credit, or for you guys, you know, something else, your UMed project, and then in the afternoon you're expanding that and taking those same students and doing something different for your Schweitzer program. So you can make it easier on yourself. You can create your schedule so it lumps together. The only thing that we want to be very clear about is to not be doing a research study with the exact same population where they might get confused that your Schweitzer project is a research study. So we wouldn't want the subjects thinking, exactly, your language changes as soon as you start doing research. We wouldn't want them thinking that they're subjects for you at one time and then you're trying to help them at another. Like, it gets a little tricky that way. So if you're there for service, it should really be about service, and that should be your only intention. And if you're going to do research, you can do it with a maybe different group at the same organization or something else. As a public health student, I actually wrote my master's thesis about my fellowship experience, but it was sort of an after-the-fact analysis, and I also, they had focus group data from the fellowship from previous years, and I was able to pull, I did a qualitative analysis of the focus group data, which was slightly different than my own project. So you can really work with it and make it easy for yourself. You just can't actually get credit or money for what you do. So any other questions about the, yeah?
Already, but like what she was talking about in projects or through organizations,
Mm-hmm.
can you do something?
No, you need to find an existing organization. So that's part of the structure of the support and mentorship is you have to have someone who oversees some sort of overarching thing. Now, some students have found it sort of an umbrella organization that allows them a little more independence. So one student, for example, worked with homeless people. She had the Northwestern outreach, some sort of outreach unit at Northwestern as her site, and they would monitor her activities, but she was really going out and talking with people who were on the streets regularly and really doing her project, not within the walls of an organization. So, but you need to have someone there overseeing your work, and it's usually some sort of organization, school, social service agency, maybe even a department at the school, someone who's willing to take you on and kind of be your supervisor. Yeah,
What about faith-based?
yeah, that's fine too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of students will sometimes use faith-based groups as recruitment strategy, so getting people from those groups to come somewhere else, or they'll just go and do a project with that organization, introducing. There was a year someone did a health, sort of a health support information group at the church, and so anyone who was interested would come weekly and learn about different health topics. So it really depends. Any other questions? So the application process, we'll move on to that. Oh, these are some of our alumni activity photos. So the applications are due February 1st. We have an actual application that we can email to you. And there's really sort of two components to the application. The first is we want to know about you. You know, why are you interested in the fellowship? What's your background? Why do you want to go out and do community service? And then the second half is about your proposed project. So what population do you think you want to work with? Do you have any organizations in mind that you might want to approach? You don't have to have actually approached the organization yet, but you need to probably have thought through different places that you could work. What's the basic project concept? It doesn't have to be fully fleshed out, but we just want to get a sense of really what are you thinking about? What health issue are you addressing? And then a little bit about sort of if you go through with your concept, how might you evaluate it over time and how might it be sustained? Trying to get you thinking about those things. We don't really look at the evaluation sustainability part at all in deciding who can be a fellow. It's just to help you start thinking about it through the application process. And the application is used for all 13 programs across the country, so some programs emphasize different parts of it a little more than others. But we really want to know who you are, why are you interested, and what's your proposed idea. They're due by February 1st, 5 p.m. February 1st by email. Something we noticed last year for some reason was most of the UIC medical students applied as teams, and we don't usually accept teams, and so it made it difficult to assess because while Stephen and I are a team, we do have maybe one team out of the 30 fellows, 0 to 1 teams per year. But if we have all 20 UIC applicants as a team, it makes it much harder and probably to get in. So we would encourage you to probably apply by yourself. However, if you have a complementary project and two people who have complementary projects were both in the fellowship, you could then work together. It's just to be an official team makes it a little bit more tricky for getting in. So I just want to put that out there. And we internally debate all the time if this is really the right method, but this is how we do it for now. So you're doing your project by yourself for the most part. And if you are really, truly interested in being a team, a pair, two people doing a same project, you need to contact Ray, our program director, beforehand, and he can really talk you through the process. You really have to show why both of you are really needed, why you couldn't just do it by yourself. You know, even if it's a smaller scale and things like that. So all of us are here to help you. I actually need to change my email. My email's different now because I changed my last name. But you can call any of us, email any of us. You can go to the SchweizerFellowship.org website, and that's the national website to look at all the programs. And we'll probably email you today or tomorrow so you have our contact information and you can reply back to us. If you want the site guide that lists all those organizations where you can work, we can send that to you. And feel free to ask us questions all along the way. If you want to send us your application in advance just for feedback, we're happy to do that as well, just not the week before the applications are due. So anytime before that, we'll probably have time to give you some feedback if you're interested. If you just want to bounce ideas off of us, that's fine too. And something I would encourage you to do is really think about not just your current learning experiences. Many of you as M2s won't be capable of doing clinical work. You can't really do real, clinical stuff like that. So think about sort of what skills you have perhaps from a past life or from earlier college years or something. Maybe you were an athlete and you really want to talk about exercise and physical activity. Maybe you were a teacher in a former life and you want to go in and tutor students and kind of meld some of this health information with something you did in the past. Really think about your skills and what you can offer to a community and make it easy on yourself. So I remember I started out doing a after-school program with kids, only to realize I've never done anything like that in my life, and to come up with a curriculum and take the time needed to really do a thorough job when I had no experience whatsoever took so much time. And I was doing it, but if I had gone with something I knew better, which is I ended up switching my project because the kids were moved out into a different location. I ended up working with adults, and I was a gymnast for 14 years, so I did exercise classes, and that shift just changed everything for me. I know exercise, I can do that. It's something that was very easy for me, and it just made my experience so much more enjoyable and I think more beneficial to the residents because I had some sort of background in that. So really think about what you're interested in and how you can contribute. And really we're open to any population that you see as being underserved. So we can help you connect with sites. Maybe you're new to Chicago. How many of you are new to Chicago? Yeah, so if you don't know the area very well, we can certainly help you find organizations that serve the population you're interested in. But we're here to help you. So I'm going to stop there, and if there are any other questions, I'm here. You can ask them to the group. Anything else? No? Okay, well, thank you for coming, and we'll be in touch if you're interested.